as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. And this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation? So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, the president of the United States represents America. And I think that is America. That is strength under fire. And, so that's, a big, part of the reason why I was, excited to endorse you as, the president of the United States for having another term here is, that was just incredibly inspiring. But, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant. I have to be honest.
Pleasant.
I said there was blood. I had more blood. I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very. I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this or like a lot less than this where you feel it's a surreal situation. And I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear.
Yeah.
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly, and we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down, so I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle, so that was the miracle. That was, for those people that don't believe in God, I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to... I'm a believer. Now I'm more of a believer, I think, and a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect angle. And all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart even more now.
Maybe it's a sign. Maybe that's a sign,
It's an immigration sign.
You highlighted a serious issue, and at that moment, the bullet missed your ear, but missed your head.
The amazing thing is that literally literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that it was going to be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey, who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, I'd like to give the family some kind of help. And I said, that's great. He said, do you mind? I said, I don't mind at all. And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, she said, this is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back, which is a nice thing for somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of money for them and for two other gentlemen who are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them, equally. And we thought, my first question was, because I heard bullets flying over me, I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous thousands and thousands of people, and there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired. And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper, because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium.
It's pretty obvious.
And he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been badly hurt and killed. So I have to take my hat off to him, because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. Obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have to have in that particular work. But he took aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range, one bullet.
Obviously, we don't know what.
If that didn't happen, because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges with him. So
something like that, right?
I mean, that's clearly,
or she said something.
He was very confident in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination.
Be nice to my sister.
But I mean, there does seem to be, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen.
Right?
Well, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody in the roof. There were people, because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him. And there was one woman with a red shirt.
I was confused. Like, I know he was talking about
Trump all over his face. He's screaming.
But then
that guy's got a gun. You saw it probably.
Going to pool first.
There's a guy out there with a gun.
I mean, it's like, I guess, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering, how the heck are,
she literally said that.
Basically, people wondering by pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
I'm going to
they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That just seems crazy.
Well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up. And he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot. But
I know
he
she
was
just
like
said
pulling
something about
himself
me.
up.
And that's why I was telling why I was
because
telling
of
you
that,
the
he
whole time
couldn't
this
get
whole
to
weekend.
his gun.
Don't tell her.
And he fell
Like,
down,
who
actually
does that?
very badly,
Who
hurt
goes to
his
the supposedly,
leg,
let's say,
his
future
ankle.
daughter-in-law,
He
right?
hurt very badly,
To
but
say
he fell down.
your
And he did,
sister-in-law is
from
jealous
what I
of you.
understand, he did
Who
say
does
there's a
that?
guy
Who
up there
does
with
that?
a gun.
I told you this
And
before. Babe, he's
the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. You're supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
But I know,
My
I already
sons,
know, I can already
Don
look in
and
the
Eric,
future.
they
I know
can't
your mom. She's
believe
gonna
what happened,
load
but
up. She
they said from
adds to it,
130
and she's
yards,
actually gonna go say
a
it.
bad shot would hit that
actually
target
gonna
almost
cause
every
a
time.
really
They said it's
awkward
like in golf,
situation.
thinking a 2-foot putt.
Imagine my mom would do that to you.
Yeah, it's not a hard, it's not a tough shot.
It's not a
Girlfriend
long
of
shot.
my brother Mohammed
The
and
Secret
my
Service
sister-in-law,
person
Karen.
had the long shot. He had a
Imagine.
triple the
Yeah.
distance, actually.
My mom would go to Karen and she would say, she's jealous of you. About you. You
terrible
would
thing.
hate it.
Look,
because
it's hard.
stems
I have to
just
say
of
this about the
stupid
Secret
joke,
Service. When
something
I
that
went
you made
down,
up.
and I
And all
went
of a
down
sudden
based
your
on,
sister
I
was
think
like,
they're
she
screaming.
has no idea what
But
she
other
can take it
people also,
serious.
because people saw this happen. You had
it's
so
true
many
to something they say,
people.
right? So
One of the
she can do that.
miracles was that nobody
My mother
ran.
said
I mean,
that.
if a gun goes
There's
off,
always
crowd
gonna
control
get stuff
people
in Erika's head.
show
Always
this.
from now
When
on.
guns go off, and it does
So
happen in stadiums at a
Roger's
soccer match or some kind of a
reaction
match.
was actually very
Everybody
appropriate.
flees. They call it a
But I
stampede,
told
like
you
cattle.
yesterday,
But everybody, and a
to
lot of
not be
people get
biased,
killed
even
with
though
those
I'm in the
stampedes.
middle. I was like,
We
I
had
want to know
more
the
people
unbiased
than you'd have
story
it.
of what happened.
Some of
and
these
you did not
matches
even
or
react
these
to the
games,
fact,
and
like, why would you?
nobody left.
What did my
You
mom
had a
tell
small
Erika
group
about me?
behind us in
You
the
did not even
grandstand,
care about
and
that
that was
piece
full.
of, was it something
And you look
mean?
at it as it was taking place,
You really went to
and
go tell her?
normally they'd be
None.
running.
You
They
all
didn't.
were
They
like,
saw that I was
yes,
hurt.
I'm not that mean.
They saw a lot of blood,
like Roger is.
and
like,
they saw that I went down.
I'm not even in your
and
head
it's
at
almost
all.
like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people.
That was
As far as the eye
situation.
could see, you had people in Butler. As far as the eye could see, and
Yeah.
and a lot of press too. It was many cameras on watching this.
It was me.
It's what
Because
makes it
remember
so different,
upstairs
because
you guys
normally
were ganging up the
things
whole time,
happen
and
that
I
aren't
even told
good,
Erika.
but you never
like,
have
yeah,
a
they've
picture.
been
Here we
ganging
have
up the
all
whole
these
time.
cameras
Right,
shooting
we're
it.
talking and telling her.
So,
Roger was
sort
listening the
of
whole time.
amazing. But one of the
Roger was listening
interesting
the
things
whole
was
time when your
that
mom was trying to
you didn't have
embarrass
anybody
me.
flee.
But
You didn't have
the
anybody
ocean,
stampede.
Sure.
Nobody.
The wave
And there was
dropped her,
some
and she
people
would
behind
throw
me. They
Spanish
stood up and they're
gossips
looking
in
like,
there.
I
Like,
mean, I tell you, you
he's
want to
right
have
there.
you want to
He's
have them in a
everything.
foxhole with you.
She
I want
is
to meet some of
embarrassing
those
me the whole
people
time.
Sure,
And
sure.
trying
because
to
it's so
suppress
different from
herself.
what you heard. But
She is, and
so-
you're just right there
so I was
adding
down,
to
but
it.
the
But you don't
Secret Service
understand the
guys,
situation.
there were
It's not
bullets flying right
appropriate.
over my head. You could
I'm
hear
your
them go
wife.
whizzing, and
There's jokes
these
and there's
guys
seriousness.
came
When is it going to
jumping
get?
on
When is
top
it cross
of
for
me,
you?
and a young lady, Kate.
Is it always just going to be like, but it's my mom. My mom
jump,
makes jokes.
they
Or
moved
is it
so
going to be
fast,
like,
and
you know, we're
let me
all
tell you, that
mature.
took tremendous
There's jokes
courage.
in the
Now, there was a
car
lack of
yesterday, day before.
coordination.
The joke is old now.
There
To
was, obviously
bring
everybody
situation
understands that
to a place
somebody
where you're not
that
even
building should
welcome in
have
the
been
first
covered.
place. There's tension
And,
between
Yeah,
them.
I
They
mean,
had a
was a
I
huge
think
big
that's
fight.
like,
Did you not notice? Did you not see that? They had a huge fight.
That building
Roger
would be
was
like the
pissed
number one spot
that
for a sniper.
Erika
It's like
invited
the-
us for
if you were to
CBT.
pick, like, what is
Roger
the favorite?
did not want us there.
If you,
That's why
so
Roger,
if the goal is to
he's a very
assassinate, what's
smart
your
guy.
favorite
That's
spot?
why
That
he
building.
clearly
You're right.
didn't
Building would be number
say
one.
That would have been the
eat with
spot.
us.
It's like you can ask for a better
No.
location. It's
You
like,
respond to
that
him,
would
you
have been
want to
the
go eat.
spot.
And
You know
he
what
let it
people
like that.
think is
That's
when
what
the
he wanted.
local
and then
police,
Erika jumps into
who,
she
by the
has
way,
this call from your
he
mom. And
really,
she's like, oh, okay, yeah,
he
you guys
did
should come
what he
over.
was supposed to do. He couldn't
comes
hold
home
on
like,
any longer.
why did you
And then when he
him?
got his head just
I don't
peeking
want them
above,
here. I don't know
this
what
guy standing there with a
happened.
gun at his head.
He got pissed. You
And
could tell they had. I
when
don't
he
know how
fell
big
down,
of a fight,
again,
but
hurt his
they had
ankle very
already had
badly,
a
but he
fight.
was making
Erika
the
did not
calls.
respond to the
But what
text
happened is
messages.
the firing took
Erika
place very soon.
wants to
So
impress us the whole time.
what they think is that this guy ran to his site,
to the text message.
which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and
Why
he
do you
started
think Roger
shooting
texted
fast,
early in
and
the
maybe
morning?
that's why
They had a huge fight.
he.
Remember, he embarrassed
well, he
her.
sort
How
of
she was
missed.
like,
I mean,
if I could,
he,
I would get
yeah,
married.
but
he
that's
got
the thing.
it,
If
but
you
it
would have
could have
hit,
And
been.
how
I
he
mean,
didn't respond, he completely
could have
ignored
been a
her,
much bigger problem.
which is really embarrassing to her.
but he totally would have hit if
He not
you
even
hadn't hadn't turned her
respond to
head.
that.
So, like,
He was
you know,
pissed.
there
They had
was
to argue, whatever.
it was
So today, early this morning,
It was a
I mean,
miracle. If I hadn't turned my
early in the
head,
morning,
I would not be
so I would
talking
write
to
a
you
text
right now. As much as I
with
like you,
Erika,
Exactly.
with me,
I would
with
not-
you, and your
I
mom.
would not be talking to you.
Oh, by the way, what was the
Moving to
subject?
from another
Oh, by the
realm.
way,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
Mom.
right. We'd be
I'm
talking
gonna
from a
marry
different
Erika.
place. But
She told him,
it
you
was
embarrassed
it was
me.
a
And he
you know, it
wanted
was
to
a very
make it
terrible
right.
experience.
She's
The Butler
making up
Hospital, they
place,
did such a
whatever.
great job.
It's still going on,
The
obviously.
doctors were so
because she
good.
didn't
Everybody
respond.
was so good. There
So for
was
her, it was
a
like,
mistake.
I don't know if she did, but
if somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been And if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, "Sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something,
but
right?"
It will be confusing.
And that happens often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
That's what she hears. She's jealous of you.
Well, it was.
Why does she have to cause that tension
your
between me and her? How
actions
childish
in the heat of fire, and
But you don't listen to me when I tell you.
There was that
in that moment, I told you,
bravery
don't do
under
it. She's
such
going to take it
circumstances.
out of the
The courage is
context, and
instinctual, or
it's
not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say
that
that I think a lot of people admire your
and I'm
courage.
not jealous. I don't care. It was a dumb joke.
Who
the fuck?
I appreciate
if I wanted to talk to my mom, I would call her every week.
Of it. I just wanted to get up. And I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know. I felt I was,
or whatever, give her attention.
When they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me.
Throw shade at her then.
But
I think that was the funny part.
I said, I want to get up.
She was,
and
the whole time about Erika. Not from a jealous point, like, why the fuck is it all about Erika?
I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were...
But her
you were hit more than the ear. I said, nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up. And so I got up. And the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people. You could see they were confused.
It's not a joke anymore. It's not funny.
I wanted to let them know I was okay.
Dragging the joke and gonna make it bigger and bigger and bigger. It's not a joke, and that's what I hate. That's why I hate making jokes with your mom.
They didn't go wild when I got up because they didn't know.
One little thing happens, she can tell everyone.
You really couldn't tell when I stood up
with your family
before the hand, before the
the
fist in the air.
Laura.
They didn't know if I was alive.
Members right there,
Nobody
right
did.
There, and telling the story how we went
when
hiking.
I put the fist up, they were just relieved and
That's how
happy
your family is. They love to embarrass
the place
people.
went crazy.
But again,
it was pretty amazing.
Funny when it's with us. It's not funny when they're strangers. I do not know these people. Don't put me on the spot. Yes, I will react sharp to that. Don't put me on the spot.
The slide that got you to turn.
Your mom was extremely happy that I didn't react.
Really, was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this is worth talking about that.
It was
that slide. That slide says
you're right. Illegal immigration.
Even Roger sees it.
You're right, but it was
who was defending me? Roger.
I mean, that's a great one.
I was driving with Roger.
You know the incredible thing though when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment. It's always on my left, never my right. And it's always at the end of the speech.
For me, it's just...
So, here we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared. And they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and you know that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would have been a very different story. It's very much. I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm honored by it. I'm honored by it.
About the whole jealous part.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted?
Well, I was going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler.
She grabbed her chair.
And
what the fuck did I even do
to
her?
In October. We're all set up.
Throwing shade at me the whole time.
The people are fantastic in Butler.
Like she's the one throwing shade at me the whole time.
These are incredible people.
Just her chair.
Like the three that in the case of Corey killed and the other two. The families are. I got to know them a little bit and. A family
right here, and
we're going back to Butler,
here.
And I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
she's right there.
Prior to being so horribly interrupted,
but
so rudely interrupted by an assassination attempt.
It's like
no, but the chart.
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart.
Because you're already annoying me the whole time.
In my last week, we had the best
Again, I can take a
illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping.
You should know me by now.
It was at the lowest. You've seen the
throw
chart.
shade, I'll throw double shade, or at least the same amount. That was the lowest point
throw double,
ever
but recorded.
It was really,
hard too. I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people,
with other people,
Kamala and Joe. You see what happened.
Again,
they just let it go. I had Remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good.
And because for her, that's
guys
so
like Tom
Homan
and
for me,
Brandon
so
Judd
separate,
from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They said it's the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks. Catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had.
That's who you
things
are.
where if people, many people come in there, they have contagious diseases.
My expense.
We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally
I did not do anything to you. You're the one who's throwing shade at me.
All I was doing is showing that, and
so why do you
I use it sometimes. In this case, I'm glad I used it.
You grabbed a chair? That's like really you want to fight.
They were fantastic numbers, but I'm going to sleep with that chart always.
I'm not going to lie.
I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was
this kind of stuff she's done
was very important.
With me or with other people.
Very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration? But we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that,
don't you see
does that accurately represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be
checked. The whole space, and then you're causing a scene.
Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible.
She's hang out with me.
No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech saying there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses.
She told me many of these stories. I'm like, I know why. She doesn't realize why, but people
They had a policy
that
they were really going to go after you, and
look
harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says,
for you that's funny, for her that's really hurting.
Which I think is terrible, and I think it's also hitting them very hard.
But that's your mom. She would do that. I'm like,
now they're also saying they did a good job at the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13.
But
I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country.
Her app goes open
from
and
jails, from prisons, from mental institutions.
Disrespect.
Or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world, they're coming from
Because, you want to assess the situation. Obviously, the puzzle is made quickly, but after a situation with Carlos, I was like, never again. Never again. People like that are never going to put me in such a negative situation. And that's the reason why.
So sad, October 7th, because it should have never happened. It's so sad when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective government. These are defective people. And they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border. Because you have millions of people coming in a month.
Yeah, the way she disrespects me,
then she gets up and she tries to pretend like
the way she's going to do something.
She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they won't do anything.
And I'm showing you my
all
feelings,
talk.
So
She's incompetent and he's incompetent.
Just put yourself
and frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
If I was right there and be like, yeah, Mom. Yeah, Mom.
No, I think it is essential to have a secure border.
I don't read your face.
You're really not a country unless you have a secure border.
The next day, and
secure elections.
I wave with it.
Absolutely secure elections. And So it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our service, our central services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. As we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and I, speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, and I think that. I mean, like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are going to, be great contributors to our society and to our economy, and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're such a target-rich environment. I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And and in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
So
it's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I hate to say
then I feel just like, what the fuck, Nora? Why do you even give her time?
I hate it, but
people like that, I would never in my life give
people
them time.
That
You know that?
I think it's a
the
much
Nora
bigger number
5,
than you
7,
think.
8 years ago, 10
allowing,
years ago,
allowing
I would not
people
even
to jail.
look at her.
And if you were
I
running
swear,
one of these countries where they're coming
I would not
from,
even look at
you
her.
would have
Why?
had all of them.
She's not respecting me.
As an example,
Respect, you have
Venezuela,
to earn it. Simple as that.
their crime
That's my
is down
formula.
72%.
You know what that takes for a
They're
person
taking their
who's
drug dealers.
that's
they're taking,
me.
frankly,
That's
their
truly my
prisoners. They're
principle
emptying out
inside.
their prisons.
If
They're
you don't
taking
respect me,
their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and
I'm also not going to insult
they're
you.
delivering them into.
That's what Castro did.
Yeah, well, he did on a much smaller
You know
scale.
what that takes for me
Much smaller
to
scale. But this
put that
is a massive
aside
scale because this
and
is being
still
done
talk to you
worldwide.
and still
But
be
here's
nice
what's
to you?
happening:
Whew.
crime all over the world
I'm not that
is
person.
down.
I'm proud
And
of
wait
it.
till you see the
And I
numbers
built all
that we have.
solutions.
This is migrant
But it's
crime.
against
This
my
is crime
principles.
that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was
Like,
knifed with a
I should
raped
just
the
treat her the way
girlfriend of a
she's
man
treating
that
me.
stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters and started
I don't
pulling
want
out
to.
the knives, and bad things happen today.
I don't want-
but
I
this
don't
is
want
happening
to.
every day. These are rough people.
I don't
These
want
are
to be
people
that
that are in
mean
jail for
person.
murder and all sorts of things.
It's
and
not.
they're
It's
releasing
not hard
them into our
to be
country,
mean.
and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing.
You thought it was
and
cute in the
she's
kitchen
in
when she
charge
was
of it
throwing
because,
shade.
now
But
she's
like the
trying
whole
to say she
time,
had
like
nothing
we're
to do
sitting
with
there,
it.
it
And
was
she's such
still
a
about
liar
me.
because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure, but had nothing to do with the problem.
Yeah, like let me
But she was
be.
the border czar, and people can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that
I know that from you.
she
I know you don't
wasn't,
have a bad intention.
She wasn't really
But not from her.
involved,
For
and
her, she was
the
trying to
whole thing
embarrass
is
me, and
horrible.
she was truly trying to
totally
impress
in
Eric.
charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't
so
know what he was
obvious.
doing anyway. So he wouldn't have even known what happened. You could shut the border down. He wouldn't even know the difference.
Obvious.
But the fact is that she was border czar. But
Was it good
you don't have to
intention?
call her that. The fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border.
But why
was
am I
over
expense?
ever.
Why am I expense?
It's simply not working.
No, it's horrible.
Whether it's by whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, these people that I saw did not look friendly. So people can look at my video and say, hey, these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
these are people that Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across.
That's my sister.
And I know rough people.
Point at me.
And these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing it, and so would I. And everyone would say, "Oh, what a terrible thing to say." The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this,
very true.
The reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive. They are just non-productive. I mean, for whatever reason. They're not workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans, in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal people. And they're coming into our country at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here. And I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years.
I think this is, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States.
Why?
She just wants to impress you to your point.
You're home. You're in our home for 3 days. We're doing stuff with you for 3 days. That's how you treat me?
I'm not sure we've got a country.
You don't have a country left. Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, before. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from everywhere. And I had to stay in Mexico.
I think this is a super important point.
She wants to call us steer. I don't understand.
When I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like,
she literally looks
like almost no one was from Mexico.
No, Mexico left.
It's just the border.
It boggles my
mind. With Mexico, but the people coming in.
It truly boggles my mind. Like, what the fuck do you want from me? Do you really want me to be that person that does not give you
about
time?
4 or 5% of the population of Earth.
Nothing?
It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything.
Come visit us. You spend time with her.
We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it.
Way too much time. That's the conclusion.
They try and focus on Trump.
Way too much time.
Let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged
election. And it's tiring. You really think I wanted to hang out with her 3 days
unbelievable. You have
when that was all happening, I regretted
from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they dropped them. They take them out of jail, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails.
But I still have a smile.
Maintaining
our visitor.
But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, don't ever come back or you're going to be executed.
You don't see, and I do this because it's really annoying. How many stories are there? That one time of a party that we had in the backyard where we made a rocket chicken.
They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America. They're coming from everywhere. And there are a lot of really...
I guess there was more people than food that we had, right?
It's just everywhere on Earth.
Annoyed by that.
And it's just not possible for the United States to absorb
the whole time in the backyard she would make jokes like,
even a few percent of the rest of
and she would tell Roger,
it's just not possible.
my house. She was still very much in that. Remember, there was a time when we bought the house, she was very much like, yeah, this is my house too, and my bedroom. It was always about the bedroom. And she would say that and look at me.
Done to our country. Think of it.
What are you going to do with a person like that? Just imagine your mother-in-law. You bought a house with your mother, and she's right there. She tells her family.
And you would be the same. You would have
yeah, my house and my bedroom. And not in a funny way. That's serious to see your reaction.
Of their really bad people.
What are you going to do with people like that?
50%.
All these kind of things, it's not a one-time thing. This is her.
50%, they're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100%?
So I need you to put a stop to it in that moment. But you always say, oh, I wasn't there. Oh, I didn't see it. Oh, really? But you were right there. How did you not see it? You were right there. How did you not hear it? You're always there.
Some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said, wow. One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this.
You have to tell her. You know your mom. She's very proud of you. You actually truly have to tell her. Like,
she hasn't done an interview.
It's like people in my Discord. They come in, they have a big mouth, and they say, hey, be nice.
This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way, or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy, and I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened.
As in,
Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it. And we wouldn't have had Afghanistan.
Felt so bad.
Think of it. You take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have no inflation. Inflation was caused by oil.
He literally did.
An excellent point here, which is that when other countries can,
don't you see that they want to go?
Are thinking about invading or doing bad things. When they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do? And
you could just, I already know, like, they have
or is there someone they do not respect
and
do not fear? And I think they would.
He's not going to want us to go eat over there.
Look at the footage of the assassination. They're like,
he didn't say. You texted him, we want to go eat.
President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean,
and then he was in response to his phone. What do you think?
I think people
he didn't want us there. He even turned off his phone.
They obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That's if the American president is someone.
Honestly, I didn't understand if she kept calling him.
Evil dictators are scary.
Even in the morning.
That makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people. Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But, they put our country in danger with that stuff, too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline. The biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down.
He did not invite us to
and then they say, I loved Russia. I was Putin. I loved Russia. No. He actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy.
Yeah,
I
he's going to eat
pipeline. The biggest pipeline.
But
they were looking at that fund.
Like boundaries, she doesn't have that. She would eat her food.
President gets in
there. If it's yours.
And the first thing he did, one of the early things he did is he shut down shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline, that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers.
Respect
shuts it down. That
Simple.
was, a massive job.
We don't invite him to come eat here.
Refused to allow.
We invited him one
it in my
time.
first
And
week
look how many times we've been to his place. I'm sure he's like.
And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down, and he approves the Russian pipeline.
I haven't felt.
Yeah, it doesn't make
I
sense.
haven't felt that he
It's
wants.
like,
He says come to the pool. He doesn't want us up
certainly
there.
But I think it's just worth emphasizing
It's been like that
to
lately.
listeners
You've been saying that too.
The immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters
Honestly,
to global
I think
security.
He might have been annoyed by you.
Because
I don't know why, but
there's some real tough characters out there,
Not
and
by
if they
you,
don't think
but
the American
the
president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of
And
them.
that puts it puts the whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know them well. I know Putin, I know President Xi, I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, "Oh, this is terrible."
Good. Don't be a fucking.
I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game.
Don't be a fucking
They're
cheetah.
tough. They're
The
smart.
fact that you have to
they're
tell
vicious, and they're going to protect
He
their
should be
country.
happy
Whether
if you
they
tell
love
him
their
anything.
country, they probably do. It's just
Oh, yeah,
a
he
different
didn't
form
respond
of
to
love,
that,
but they're going to
when you
protect their
said-
country. But these are tough
I
people
understand
at
that
the top
you
of their game.
put your card
And when they
to
see a
me,
Kamala,
but why does
or when
she
they
need to put
see
her card?
Biden, Sleepy Joe, they
I mean,
can't
it's
even
okay.
believe
Everyone
it. They
puts their
can't
card.
believe this
The
happened.
point is you,
All the stuff that you're
Roger,
seeing now,
also
all the
have to pay
horror that
your
you look at
part.
Israel, they're all waiting for an attack
That's why I'm
from
like,
Iran.
how are you gonna
Iran
be
would not
butthurt?
be attacking, believe me. You know, when I was there, and I say it with respect, because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke. Because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's
Oh,
where
you
the
told
money
him?
is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any
Yeah.
business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass. They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United
Right.
States. And they
He could
were
have
at a point
easily
where
said,
they were,
"Oh, no,
they had
let's
no
do
money
it."
for
Oh, you know
Hamas.
what? Here,
They
Mom,
had
your
no
card.
money for
Because I
Hezbollah.
put
They
my
had
card
no money
after your
for
mom,
any of
right?
these instruments
Oh,
of
you know
terror.
what? Okay, he wanted to
And
wait till I put
it
my
was
card.
amazing.
Because I'm sure
In fact, there were
he's like,
articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe,
Right?
actually, especially when you look
But
at what's
once I
happened
put
to our
my
country.
card,
Our country is
why
so
don't you
bad
also
right
put your
now. It's
card?
such a different place.
And did
We
you know
were
that
respected.
I was literally on my
Think of
phone,
it.
I was trying to
4 years
post
ago, we were
from
so
your phone.
respected to a point
He did not
where
put his card. All
I
he said
said,
is,
don't
"Oh,
buy
no."
oil. They didn't buy oil. But they had no money, and
Did you
Israel
not
would have
eat?
never been attacked.
Did you not eat? Are you not going to go shit
And
that
again,
out
I said
in an
to
hour?
Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it.
Wow.
It's gonna be
I was
bad
annoyed
day.
too.
You
And then
cannot
he's
do
like,
it. And
he wanted to test
I
me.
told him
He
things,
literally wanted to
what
test
I
me.
do.
So
And he
he had
said,
the receipts.
No
So
way. And I said,
he was
way.
hoping I would say, "Oh, no, you're
And
not
you know, it's the
listening."
last time we ever
He
had
was
the conversation.
hoping for that.
He would
So,
never have done. I got
like,
along well with him. I hope to
40?
get along well with him.
Wait,
again.
wait.
You know, getting along well with them
50?
is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un.
Honestly, I don't know.
When I met with
Like, you had the
President
fucking check in your
Obama
hand.
just before entering, you know, it's a sort of a ritual.
I mean,
And I
155
sat down
plus-
with him and we talked. It was
plus
supposed to be
tip
for a very short period of time. It turned out to
is
be a long
what?
period of time. I said, what's the
190?
biggest
180?
problem? He said, North Korea.
That's
I
not
had that
50
problem
first
worked out
off.
very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man,
It's 60.
and, you know, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were epic everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said,
That
I
is
have a
very
red
weird.
button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger, and my red button worked. And then I called him Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden,
No, that had everything to do with you.
and
Because
they
you
said
put
they
him on
want to meet.
blast.
They want to meet me. And
He
we
would have
met,
never
Yeah.
paid your
as you
mom.
remember, we met in
In the
Singapore.
restaurant,
We
he was
met also
actually
in
pretending that
Vietnam.
he paid you, that he was paying your mom.
I got
No,
along with
he
him great.
didn't.
We were in no danger.
He literally
President
said,
Obama-
"Okay, I paid both of you guys." He literally said that. And what did I tell you in the car? I'm 100% sure he didn't pay your mom.
Exactly.
And he didn't, because he didn't send you that till what, yesterday, today? Oh my
I mean, it's
god!
because, people like Kim Jong Un.
It's because you put him on the blast.
Strength,
Yeah,
not
he
weakness.
probably.
And
He and I had a good
strength,
relationship. Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before.
Why is he so
I walked
cheap?
I wouldn't say, let's bring up Secret Service again. I wouldn't
Yes.
say they were thrilled when I
But
did
also
that.
not
I
just
walked
to his
onto
mother,
land.
himself.
And it was
He didn't want to pay him
it
for
was an
himself.
amazing period.
Nobody asked him
We
to
were
pay for
not
your
in
mom.
danger with
I mean,
him
you
because
did
of me.
afterwards. But for me, it was like, just play your part.
We have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government. And people that are controlling.
For him,
the people.
it was all about.
I mean, I mentioned names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia
they're not both
and China.
Put their card.
If
only
you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are
I
not
know
in
him.
danger
That's how he
from those
thinks.
countries because they need
But
us.
we're not.
And they need our help.
We do put both
I mean,
our cards when it's like that,
Obama,
especially with Roger.
if you think about it,
I don't want
Obama
him to
and
pay any
Biden.
of our food. He's
And
cheap.
Bush to a certain
He
extent,
really
in all
counts
fairness.
the dollar.
Russia and China.
He gets always so
together.
nervous with that kind of
And
stuff too.
if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let
And he couldn't
Russia
stand that
and
you went to
China
Russia.
align.
Maybe
But
he
then they
thought
also
you
got,
ran away
if you
because
take a look, Iran,
uh,
and they have North Korea.
a little bit like
That's,
annoyed.
You know, they
Why
call it
did
the
you go to
axis of
restaurant?
evil. In
Nora.
the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of
Why
evil.
did you go to the
These
restaurant?
are powerful
Fucking
countries,
take care of it.
very heavy nuclear,
Together.
which is the biggest threat. You know, the biggest
Nora?
threat is not global warming, where the ocean's
But
going to
say
rise.
Nora, can you imagine? But can you imagine? I'm
going
going to say Roger while I did not put a card yet.
Property, right?
If I put a card, I can say,
The
hey,
biggest
Roger,
threat
want
is
to chip
nuclear
in?
warming.
I can say that.
Because we have
But if I didn't put my card, I would never say his name.
And we have to not allow
Like you take care, Nora,
anything to
can you take
happen
care of
with
it?
stupid people like Biden.
How are you, man?
You know, Biden did something with Russia.
I was actually
There was
happy that
no
you said
chance
that.
of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I
like-
left, they started forming big
And
armies
then it
on
wasn't till-
on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing
And-
it because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate.
The whole
But
time
then
I
Biden
thought my
started
mom was
saying
in the
such
paper
stupid things. For instance,
me
he
as a
said
birthday
that
thing, 'cause she said that previously.
it can be a NATO country. Now,
Never
Russia,
brought that up at all.
for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this
No, your mom
president
was
with a
cheap
low
too,
IQ,
this
very
whole
low
trip.
IQ.
Oof.
He had a low
Yeah,
IQ
you
30
picked
years
everything
ago, by
for
the way,
her.
but now he
Like,
might not even have
little
the
too much.
IQ at all. There is no.
Yeah,
there's
but you
nothing
could
on the
still.
board.
I get that you want to pay the majority
He
thing
said
for him.
things that were
But girl,
so stupid.
3 days in a row,
that
all we did is
that
eat
war
outside.
That war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people. And, you know, Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and you don't hear the true story.
Honestly, we should
But
have just not gone.
if you think about it,
yesterday.
Russia's gone, you know, Russia defeated
I was
Germany,
a little bit annoyed here
and
and
they
there, but it
defeated
was
Napoleon.
not bad at
You know,
all.
they've been
Like,
around a long
this was
time.
overall,
They're a big
I still
fighting
had
force.
fun. Good
And
weekend.
it's very unfair.
And I
And
only had to
Ukraine
go there
now
and-
doesn't have enough men. They're now
It's
using
just
young men
weird.
and very old men.
You know, it becomes
to fight.
awkward
And
when all of a sudden
we're
your
in a
brother-in-law
very
is
bad
like,
position.
no.
And I'm
What?
not going to blame exclusively,
What did she say about
but I
me?
can tell you, I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have
It's
happened.
just awkward.
But we had a
Why you
man
make
that
it like
actually
that?
made it.
I thought we had a
It
good
made
weekend.
it more
Suppose-
prevalent. It
You
was
didn't.
so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using.
She's
I
very
said, this
wrong.
guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause this. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to... We have numerous places that could end up in World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, but
I think you're right.
That was not the
I think
situation.
people
You know, obviously,
underrate
Roger
the
wouldn't
risk
get
of World War
upset.
III.
You're her
And
daughter. She can say
we're-
whatever
when
about you.
Looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity. And, you know, it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become
He is
complacent
on
about. They
edge. He is.
actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have target parameters for the United States.
But that's
and
also,
other
yeah.
countries.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build.
He was
an
definitely
iron
on
dome.
it.
You know, Israel has.
No, in general, he was
We're
on it,
gonna have
and
the
that's
best
why I
iron
told
dome in the
you
world.
they
We need it, and we're
100%
going to make
had a
it all
fight
in the United States.
and
We're
argued
gonna
right
have-
before
we're
we
gonna have
arrived.
protection.
Did you not see how
Because
he
it
was
just
doing
takes
it?
one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection. We're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an iron dome? Israel has one. Some other places have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an iron dome. But, you know, with all of that being said, to me, that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money.
I saw it immediately that he was on edge. I was
Inflation
like,
has killed them. Food
but he's
prices
also
are up
just in
50,
general,
50, even
just his energy
100%
so
in some cases. And this stupid administration
He was not
allowed
calm. He
this to
doesn't look at
happen.
you when he
And
talks
it's
to
a
you.
shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, do you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on you.
Well, 3 times outside, and then
they
he
don't
left.
need Elon.
On the phone.
They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviews. It's pretty
Yes, absolutely.
But the big thing now is the economy, Elon. And as much as I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation.
And he's like, yeah, he smokes.
Doesn't matter what you make.
Now. I'm like,
the inflation
really?
is eating you alive.
He's
if
like,
you're a worker,
I'm like,
or if you're a middle-income person,
he does have to be careful.
You can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And we'll end that quickly.
A lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. If the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days. And the interest payments on the national debt have now
because everything for
her
budget. And then Samantha has 2 jobs, can't study.
I rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were,
do whatever she wants
and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then we, by the way, then we gave $85 billion.
He said he always
Afghanistan, if you can believe it, we gave them $85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country.
Rich white kid stuff.
If you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline.
Oh no, but that's
now your cars don't require too much gasoline. So,
but he would buy her.
And you do make a great
heels for Mother's Day.
That doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible.
Just look at
but the gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200.
The waiter brings a check. The waiter brings a check, and George is like, "You're not gonna pay." You're always saying that you have all this money and stuff. Yeah. Take care of the check. And he got pissed. Why is that? It's a thing. Everyone knows Roger is a cheap ass fuck.
Yeah, he is. And different things. You're not going to have anything. Yeah. And I know you're a big fan of the AI. And
bro,
I have to say that
nobody
AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI
we don't expect you to pay for it.
The country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build.
I feel. Yes. Once and then for your mom. Does it have to be every time? No. But
on the AI. You're going to need a lot of electricity. You're going to need tremendous electricity.
It's appropriate for your mom to pay.
Almost
you know what I mean? Like
what we produce now.
You don't have to feel forced to do it every time.
Sure.
If you're tired or whatever.
Back to this, like,
but he never does,
basic
and that is very
thing
weird.
that people try to make it
Same
sound
with your dad.
complicated. It's not,
Never
but
pays
inflation is caused by
for your
government
dad. He
spending.
actually grabs his cash and like how much
Would
you have.
you agree
Right.
that we need to take a look at government spending?
He actually never pays for himself.
And have
that's what I
a government
realized
efficiency commission
when your parents are there.
So
that's why you're funny, because I'm like, you talk about your parents, but what I see is he never pays for himself when your parents are there. That's
you
the
used
bigger
to have a
problem.
lot of people making jets, and you end up with 2 companies.
So why do you? How do you
point.
expect him to pay for your parents? He does not even pay for himself
like
when your parents are there.
A thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign in
Yeah,
general.
when we are.
Sure, will you please sign this document? What is it? Air Force
If we were
One.
there with the 3 of us,
Boeing,
he always
which
puts his
basically
cards.
2
We all put our
planes,
cards.
747.
When your parents are there,
And the price was
he never puts his cards.
$5.7 billion.
So he
for 2 planes.
truly
Now, they're
thinks
highly
your parents need to pay for him.
They're even nicer than your
Everything,
plane, okay?
whatever.
But
You're my
much more
mom, you're my dad.
sophisticated. They're very. I won't say
Where
what's
do
on
you
it,
get
but
that
they had a lot of stuff on it.
mentality?
Anyway, but it's 5.7.
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do
that's
it.
why
I
you
said, who
took so
made the
much
deal?
money of your
Obama
dad.
and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion.
That's right,
For the exact same plane. Other
Well,
than
yeah, and honestly, the more we do hang out with him, honestly,
but for
every
the
time we
exact
hang out with
same
him, we felt
plane,
bored or we're not
I saved
welcome.
one, and I said to Boeing,
We have to
man,
stop
you
doing
guys
this
must
too.
make a lot of money if you can
went
reduce the
the
price
last
by
couple
that.
times while we
But
were
now
not
what I
invited.
do hear is that they're going back
No,
to
yeah, I know, but
Biden
we were not invited
administration
the last 2
and
times
wanting big
either.
cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by 1.6
Like you said, he
billion
sends
for the
mixed,
exact
but
same
he
plane.
sent mixed signals.
And you
like
can now
said.
take that
that is
and multiply that out times
Because
thousands
then you're
of
there,
other
you're
items.
like, you don't seem happy
Multiply
to
it
see
by
Yeah,
it.
the
zillion.
numbers are
And, yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money is spent in a good way.
Like yesterday too, I'm like, I don't know who
I'd
you
be
are
happy to help
anymore.
out on
Because
such a commission.
normally
I'd love it if it
Roger
were full.
is the
Well,
social,
you're the greatest cutter.
likable
I look at what
person,
you
like
do. You
when we
walk
were
in.
networking, hanging out.
You want to quit?
Then I was like,
They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on
Are you
strike,
having
and you
fun
say,
right
"That's
now, or
okay.
do you
You're all
want to get out of
gone.
here?
You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest.
And I
You would
think
be
it's
very
harder
good.
and harder
Oh,
for
you
him
would
to
love
keep
it.
up that
But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to help
By the way,
out.
congratulations. I just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But congratulations. This is very,
It's all fake.
I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina.
That's Roger.
And he's a big, he's great. And
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan. You know that. He ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme, too. He ran on MAGA,
weird.
and I hear
Like,
he's doing
he
really a
knows your mom
terrific
moves
job.
to Vegas.
It's called Make Argentina
he will
Great Again. It
never
worked
be
out
like,
perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he
Are
brought
you still
everything.
working?
But he's doing a big job.
Like, he
he
doesn't
really cut.
care.
And I'm hearing
Yeah.
he's starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting
We
down.
know
They had like
how she's
2,000
financially,
They
she's not
had
doing
inflation
horrible,
like,
but she's working her ass off. We
not
know
normal
financial about your
inflation.
dad.
They had
For him
the real
to
deal.
just assume and
We're
expect
going to have that pretty soon.
for them to take care of him.
I think we have the
While
worst
you don't
inflation
even
we've had in 100
ask
years.
for
They
his
say
food.
it's 48
Like,
years. I don't believe
how
it. I think we have the
selfish
worst.
can you be?
They don't
And
include
you're
a lot of the
almost
items that
50.
should be included.
He's literally just sitting
Yeah.
right there
Well,
next to mom.
it's
And then
just
facade that you just
from
said,
government
he's doing it
overspending
with your
and
mom too.
not spending
Ha ha
taxpayer
ha,
money
all fun, blah blah
effectively.
blah.
And
Oh,
having,
bro, those are all fun and
like
jokes.
so many departments, you
This
can't
is
even
serious.
name them all.
But he still
Malay
keeps
is
his facade on, even with the when
is,
it's serious and you have to pay.
he's cutting government
He's
spending,
still like-
he's simplifying things, he's
Yeah.
putting in
A
regulations that
normal
make
person would
sense.
be like, oh, yeah,
And Argentina
he doesn't have
overnight
this kind of
is experiencing a giant improvement in
doesn't
prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. In the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have
phenomenal
reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because
I don't think we're
government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38.
But it's not my nature.
Norway,
It's
Switzerland,
actually not about that.
Sweden,
It's more
different
about
countries are ranked
expecting
good.
for
Actually,
someone
China's
to pay
pretty
for
close
him.
to the top.
Well, you
They're
don't
top
know
6
if
or
you
7.
even can.
But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk, I need somebody that has a
and
lot
have a
of
genuine conversation.
strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great. Because states that basically aren't doing good now, you look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the 50, I would bet that 35 would do great. And 15 of them, or 20 of them will be as good as Norway. Norway's considered great. You can name them. I mean, just
if we're having
some of these countries are so good.
I want to have a
If
genuine
you go
conversation.
into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt. Everybody working. They're really well-run.
Right.
Sure.
And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the sun and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages to some people. But if you move education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But if you think about it, you'll have some of these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than half what it is in Washington. And these people don't care about the students in these, faraway states. And it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're making a good point in that
if I'm looking for a job,
the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will naturally move to states where it's better.
Well, like California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker.
What the fuck am I doing?
He's a real loser.
And I told her I'm really happy that you
some of
realize
these
that.
places
I
are
never told her
just
that, but I told Marisol.
badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better. And they won't do it good initially. But
it's good that she's aware of it.
You're not going to do worse than you're doing right now.
So
and I would say that the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%.
There's something out there.
And you have a little monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a little English, right?
Sure,
right?
No, but I mean, you do it too much. I mean, some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their states. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul.
It's actually amazing.
People move it out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? I saw where you left California, and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not a good situation.
I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal government.
Right. Well,
that's the only thing that's going to get them to change.
You remember the area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money. and they went into a form of chapter. And it was very nasty for a period of time, but now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And, you have people, I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of these, and some are very good and some are just horrible.
No.
Well, I think that, the larger point here, too,
What?
as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the
You scared
economy, a lot
me.
of people are concerned about inflation. And inflation is effectively a tax on
Well.
people that save money and for people that are working day to day. It's just a form of taxation. And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and that's a really big deal.
Well, the people that got hurt worse are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money, and then they got no interest on their money, and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. Those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at it's sticker shock. They call it sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations. So because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the costs to be extreme for no reason. But unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had anyone really. During your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's opportunity to make, radical progress with sensible regulation. Elon, those two things, those are the big deals.
We set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for every one we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12.
I'm going to post it on YouTube.
We did radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But had that not happened, the gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle-income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers.
You want to hear it?
But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for, almost 3 years. We had the great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years. And also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best. Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, I should probably say something about maybe my views on climate change and oil and gas, because I think I'm probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving and the economy would collapse. So it's, I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry. The world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other countries. Sure. And it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there. It's not infinite. And there is some risk. I think the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So, I mean, it still gives us, so what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time. But so there's not like we don't need to rush and we don't need to stop farmers from farming or, prevent people from having steaks or basic stuff like that. Like you leave the farmers alone.
I agree. How crazy is that? Where you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is a little crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I do say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to. But I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove it, to get rid of it. He ended it. His secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure, really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that time, something will come around that will be very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my estimate would be, a little more aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. But I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates. If you start going from 2 or 3 to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. Mm-hmm. And I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard,
right?
Just so it's that's actually start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over and if I don't know 50 to 100 years from now we're I don't know mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term, I think this can be done. Without people can still have a stake, and they can still drive gasoline cars, and it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way. And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I made this sexy joke: Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there. But I don't know, I like cheesy humor, so, but I'm a big fan of let's have an inspiring future, and let's work towards, a better future, and we do so without demonizing people.
Right. I'm okay. It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because, you have some places that go up and stuff. So they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But, I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars. And it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first. But it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good.
Yeah.
At least in certain areas of the country where you have the world,
sure,
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me, that's an immediate problem. Because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number 1, and we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that, you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even surpassing. But to me, the biggest problem is not climate change. It's not And everything's, a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk about I'll prevent World War III, I will. But the truth is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is underrated.
You're right.
And it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining operation. Right. And there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. You compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that,
maybe they'll have to change the name. The name is it's a rough name. There are some areas like when you see what happened in
bad branding.
Right, we'll have to rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. It has a branding problem. When you see what happened,
it does have a branding problem.
When you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they there's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again. You realize it's pretty bad.
No, that's not true.
But you're right about it. It's the basics.
It's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. And I donated a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
but you haven't been feeling so well lately, and I'm worried about it.
No, but I mean,
I'm only kidding.
It's fine, It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So it's really not something that
That's right.
So it's not as scary as people think, basically.
Yeah.
But let's see. Are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think we need to be concerned about
what they've done to this country.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we just won the big case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use local DAs, they use the local attorney generals, like Fani, Fani, spelled Fani, Fani, and it's all a big hoax, and it's all run from there, like in Manhattan. One of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare. It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now, Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad. And it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that for a long time. You know, he can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift. And he can't lift it. The whole thing is crazy.
Well, he's clearly, he's clearly like we just don't have a president. Right
you
now.
don't have a president. And she's going to be worse than him because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco. And then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous place, and she is a radical left San Francisco liberal, and now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than Trump.
Yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's...
You know, she wants to release all the prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came out today. She doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. You know, in your business, everything you do is obsolete, almost, or not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to... The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, you know, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200 miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah, this is simply not true. This is simply not true.
And everybody knows it's not true. It's a disgrace that she can say it.
No, I mean, obviously what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie Sanders. She is considered more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. Now all of a sudden she's saying, no, I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. You know, like the Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him, you know, both sides. That was a hard thing to do, unification.
Yeah, no. I mean, Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. You know, what does that say?
I think it's highly disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, you know, is very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. You know, their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's appropriate, swamped. But they swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles, they can't defend themselves. You know, they just obliterate the whole place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you, she'll be worse than him because she's a believer in being radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, now that's all I have to hear. Tampons in boys' bathrooms, and that means she believes in that too. I mean, she picked this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as a president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election, and I mean that's understating my opinion. Now, you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission saying to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having, and there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different forum, NATO, we protect them. And yet, if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for $250 billion, and they're in for about $71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations that, in terms of an economy, it's about the same size when you say as us. And they're in, and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. It used to be for the Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70-something million. I think even less than that, billion. And we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said, you got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat. But you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in. And
I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
And then we get taken advantage of on trade. So think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like, then, okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair. And that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well, when you talk about cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do, because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me, because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are lunatics. Yeah. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russians and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now, they've taken advantage of
absolutely.
us incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media, you didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it, like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not smart. No. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, where am I? Where am I going? So anyway, but no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but, we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and I'm able to get it out because I get treated unfairly.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's it's not possible.
That's true.
So this is like talking to an NPC, so it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong-un. We had dinner. We had everything. And he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, oh, do you think he really...
That's for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man, he said. He's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But, in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or even standing together? It is, the whole concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe I think part of what, people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future.